This program deals with themes of an adult nature and is intended for a mature audience.
The KTPF Community Talk Show is sponsored by Dragonos Castle, South Wales, one of the most haunted castles in Wales. For more information on ghostly and ghastly events, including Fright Nights, all-night investigations and hen parties, visit www.mosthauntedcastle.com.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
They've landed.
You're in the right place. Online, on the web, and on air. All over the world.
Talk Radio.
You hear us, we hear you.
Yeah, good evening and welcome to another evening for another relaxed show on the KTPF Community Talk Show live from Manchester in the UK. My name is Suzanne.
And I'm Steve.
And we're here to bring you another night of weird and wonderful on the show that's recommended by Phenomena Magazine, the UK's leading online publication. For those of you who are new to the KTPF, Steve and I started a site back in 2007, and our mission was to try and bring the paranormal world together. And in 2012, we decided to have a chat room with a difference, inviting you to engage in live friendly discussions with our special guests and various investigating groups across the world. A relaxed show with no pressure, talking about various topics from cryptozoology to UFOs, whilst encouraging them and you to share information, advice, and most importantly, friendship. Remember, collaboration, not competition. So, we just want to say hello to everybody that's listening to us tonight, and those in the chat room. We've got Ghost Rider 2873. Nice to see you back in the chat room after you've been ill. Me and Steve have been ill. Well, Steve's been ill for the past week, and I think I'm about to get it because my throat's been playing up, and I've been coughing and spluttering.
Cough mixture.
Cough
mixture.
Later. Right, so let me just give you an idea of what's going on tonight. So, between the coughing and spluttering, we've got a young lady all the way from Austin, Texas, that's going to be talking to us via Skype. Her name is Roberta Grimes, and she is an attorney at law, and after spending decades studying nearly 200 years of afterlife evidence, she wrote a book in 2010 called The Fun of Dying and Find Out What Really Happens. She followed this book in the late 2000, recently that's just been published, with The Fun of Staying in Touch, whereas one of our lucky listeners tonight will be winning a copy, so please stay tuned for that. Okay, just to let you know about Roberta, as I said, she is an Austin-based business attorney, and she had two extraordinary experiences of light in childhood that prompted her to spend all her time studying and all the afterlife technologies out there, including quantum physics. Touches on that as well, but we'll find out more about that around about 8:30. So without any further ado, I'm going to hand you over to Steve with this week's observations. But before we do, let me just say hello to the doc there. Nice to see you in there. And
he seems to be missing his video.
Andy, who's missing the video? Where
Doc.
is the video? I don't know. What do you mean you're missing the video? Where's the video? I don't know. Can you hear us, Doc? I can't see you. Why can't you see us?
I don't. We're up.
We're up. We're on.
Up and running.
Yeah.
Can everybody else see us?
Yes, I can hear you. You can hear us.
That's good enough.
Be right back. Okay, well, we're going to start off with the observations.
Sounds
tonight.
like it's a reload job.
Yeah.
Are you ready?
I'm ready. As I'll ever be. Don't forget, guys, if you do have any problems with the website at all, it's down to live stream. So all you need to do is refresh. And we'll do the same if we have any problems. Okay, Steve.
There goes number one.
There you go, number one.
Has Ghost Hunter caught Wales' most bloodthirsty ghoul on camera? Ian Atherton took the photos that appeared to show the ghost of a Welshman Judge Jeffreys, who was known as the Hanging Judge.
Oh, really?
You should do. Could this be the ghost of Wales' bloodiest judge caught on camera? Paranormal expert thinks so. He took these snaps at what he claims is the spectre of Judge Jeffreys, a notorious aristocratic Welshman who hanged more than 1,000 people in the 1600s. That's a lot of people. Known as the Hanging Judge Jeffreys, he was born in Wrexham, took charge of the bloody assizes in the 17th century. The gruesome trials led to thousands of people suspected of treason being burned alive, at the stake, hanged and beheaded. I doubt if we did all three at the same time, but take your pick. Now Ghost Hunter Ian Addison claims he has a picture that shows the ghoulish figure in an archaic powdered wig, and he's staring right at the camera. The judge snaps were taken at the Ilchester Arms in London, which is understood to have been one of Judge Jeffreys' favourite watering holes. Mr. Atherton, the founder of No Fear Paranormal Investigators, said at the time, I didn't see anything. It wasn't until I went through the photos later that what appeared to be Judge Jeffreys' ghost looking straight at me. First of all, he seems to have his back to me, but then I took another photo and he turned and looked straight at me through the camera. You can make out the picture of the powdered wig, like the sort of things that they would wear during the era while he was a judge. He went to check out the place at night because the owner had said they had been hearing all kinds of strange noises in and around the pub. Looks like the gentleman is reaching here. I have been favourite watering hole, but there's many others. How can he say that this specific person was Judge Jeffreys? I mean, I looked at the picture. I mean, that last bit, by the way, was me. I looked at the picture and I can't. There's something there, but how can you say it's any one particular person? I just don't get it. Sorry, you need to have more solid evidence than that, I'm afraid.
Okay, what's the next one?
Well, I never thought I'd say this on this programme, but we're talking about Katie Price.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Katie Price feels her home is haunted.
Another one.
Yes, another one. Even in this age of reason and scientific technology, supernaturalism doesn't stop catching the imagination of humans. People get thoroughly spooked and experiences eerie encounters. Now and then consider model Katie Price's case. She believes her and Kieran Haley's home is haunted. 36-year-old model, whose house is in renovation, currently said she wants to call in a medium as she and Haler keep hearing unusual sounds and smelling strange scents, reported Contact Music. Kieran keeps smelling cigarettes, and I googled it, and spirits normally smell of smoke and flowers. I'm getting the medium in because we are knocking things down with disturbing spirits. I am 100% sure it was a ghost, she said. Well, as we all know, considering the renovation, it is possible that spirits have been disturbed, but they will normally calm down once they finish, or it could be their own conscience telling them something is not right. Ooh.
You finally spoke into the mic. You're going to have to move it over a bit.
I can hear it clearly.
Go on. Next.
Next.
Oh.
Here's a little thing here.
Steve's got a little thing.
Now. Do you not be telling people my secret?
You said you had a little thing here.
I did. Paranormal events that inspired these horror flicks are more chilling than the movies themselves. There was quite a few here, but I'm just going to tell you about one. There's something about paranormal horror movies that strikes a very special sort of fear into our hearts, and that's probably has something to do with the fact that a lot of them are based on real events.
No, it's the music. No.
All the horror movies that you will find below in this list when you click on the link were mildly scary in their own right, but in real life tales behind them are much worse. So kick your imagination into overdrive and judge for yourself whether you find the movie as a word or mouth counter spookier. One there called The Rite. I'm sure a few of you have seen this one. Father Gary Thomas was a real priest who served as an advisor on the movie, which he loosely based on his own story. He is adamant that he has seen Satan. Thomas studied for 40 years in Rome to become a Catholic exorcist, and despite an initial crisis of faith, he is adamant that he has seen Satan and describes performing chilling exorcisms in great detail. Here is an extract from his book about exorcising a young married woman named Lisa. I felt a huge presence in the room. Her face started to distort. She started speaking in language not known to me, that she hadn't been competent in before. She was hissing and spitting and exhibiting a serpentine look, both in her body and language. And her face, she kept rolling her eyes. I laid my crucifix on her. She let out an incredible scream. I took my stole, which represents my authority as a member of the Catholic Church, and as a priest, I laid it on her. She slid out of the chair onto the floor to get away from it. I said, "That's enough for today."
Okay.
That's what he said in his book. That was in his book. Yeah.
You sure that wasn't what the vicar saw?
In some of these, it shows how easily legend and myth can be mistaken for fact and real events, and how easy the lines are blurred.
Mm. And he said, "Blimey, the Mum of Prophecies is nothing like the true story. Good film, but way off the real story." Okay. And John's Andy says it's nice to see John's back. So I asked, did he not see his front? And then and the doc said, looking at the photo of the judge, he said, "Sorry, not buying it," along with everybody else.
Yep, I didn't buy it either. But like I say, there's not enough there to say it's even a person, to be honest. But he was obviously feeling things at the time that we wasn't.
And Andy said, "No, he's not looking at John's front. It's too scary."
Well, there's your next one.
Okay.
More.
And the bike has just joined us.
Oh, it's about time and all. I don't know.
That was a long cup of coffee you just made.
Was it? Yeah. Well, where's mine? Okay. Bigfoot breaking ranks.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, the old Bigfooters are breaking ranks after Jeff Meldrum interview on Coast to Coast AM. Holy mackerel. This is more serious than we thought. All these videos and messages people posted about Dr. Jeff Meldrum were not empty threats after all. We've reached boiling point. The seasoned veterans are officially breaking ranks with Meldrum. For fears Meldrum has enjoyed the limelight of being the one person you must invite to a Bigfoot conference, but this may change after 2014. The professor of anatomy and anthropology at Idaho State University has supported Canadian Bigfoot researcher Todd Standing at almost every public event this year, and even went as far to call Standing his colleague on the Coast to Coast AM radio last night. Many supporters of Meldrum are appalled at this statement. Kathy Strain was shocked when she heard Meldrum on the radio and took to Facebook by posting her dismay. And here's what she said. "I'm sorry to say that I have broken ranks with Don Jeffrey Meldrum, I can no longer tolerate his association with Todd Standing and his obvious hoaxing. Jeff called Todd his colleagues on Coast to Coast tonight and sided him with someone who is a hoaxer. It's not like that. I don't want him who Todd was. So I didn't warn him who Todd was. So whatever this costs me, so be it. Unfriend me, I don't care. Well, apparently the old Todd Standing is well known for the old Bigfoot hoaxing. Another person says Meldrum is blindly supporting Stanley. That's David. Jeff is in denial now because he's seen something that was seen at the site Todd stole from someone else and took credit for it. Poisoned fruit. Jeff, in the recent post, Jeff said Todd is still skeptical about the existence of Bigfoot, but on the show he says he strongly believes they exist. Todd was never really a skeptic. He was always working it though. Jeff has already admitted that he has never seen any of Todd's raw footage. This was a very big mistake of Jeff's. We were impressed by the same material you've all seen on Todd's also. I don't know. Jeff Sasquatch do not stay still long enough in the open. They cannot be snuck up on like Todd claims. The field of view of any camera at even alleged distance also would have revealed much more than the head as they moved around. Jeff, you are relying on hoax video. You know what? I've always thought all this punctuation stuff was a lot of rubbish.
Yeah.
But that was a pain in the arse trying to read it without it. Well, I had a look at some of it, and I have to agree with him. The video is a joke, and it's people like that taint the good evidence that does turn up from time to time. And anybody that feels the need to fake stuff like that wants shooting, to be honest. Shooting, big time.
Next.
Because it's all about fame for them people. It's not about the evidence and actually proving anything.
Next.
So that's my beloved trying to shut me up.
I'm just thinking of time.
But I don't care. There you go. Okay.
Evening all, says Ace Paradox.
Evening, Ace.
And my camp lights are flickering candles and says they're very festive.
They are. It's the only thing that's festive in this room, but there you go. Shaman on government service. Psychic searches for missing Tuva helicopter on official request. The administration of Russian remote Tuva region has enlisted a highly respected and obliging psychic to search for a helicopter with up to 14 people on board which disappeared 2 months ago at the personal behest of the regional governor. I'm just checking something out because it looks like we've got something else there. Okay. This was on the thing. Fighter jet crashes near school outside Moscow video. Hang on. No, that's that bit. Shouldn't be there.
It should be there.
Nope, that was an extra video. My mistake. More than 150 rescue flights have been made since October 10th, when chartered Mi-8 helicopter lost contact in the mountains area of a sparsely populated region of the Mongolia border. At the beginning of the month, the regional administrator revealed that Governor Shelban Karaul demanded that a psychic join the search. Many children are indigenous people of the region and are adherents of. This is one for you, Andy. I was bound to do it wrong. Tengrism. That's with 2 I's. Tengrism. An animist religion which places great importance on shamans and spiritual guides with extensive abilities. So far, the psychic, whose name was withheld to avoid media attention, has produced only vague hints about likely demise of the chopper. The psychic has said that the crash definitely happened over land and not water. Said an update on the regional government website, which is not bad. I think I could have done that one. Tuva is more than 2,000 kilometres away from any coastline and does not feature significant water masses. He says the crash happened due to severe winds, which overturned the helicopter when it attempted to turn. The message says that the psychic has identified a potential crash site, though it does not mention whether an expedition has been sent for further investigation. The psychic has now left the Republic but plans to return next week to resume the search. Local government officials say the initial desire for the psychic investigation came from the families of the crash victims. The region has only provided the fuel for a private helicopter used by the paranormal detective, as the aerial vehicle itself has been volunteered by another person who had suffered similar misfortunes in the past.
Oh.
There you go.
Is that your last one?
It is. The Russian governor in the area asked for a psychic.
They have a couple of... I've got an observation.
Go on in.
Right, well, as you know, or as you may know, today is at approximately 2 seconds, not literally 2 seconds, at 22:03 Greenwich Mean Time, by an astronomical phenomenon, right, known as the winter solstice happening.
Yes, that's tonight, isn't it?
Yes, the moment the North Pole is tilted furthest from the Sun as the Earth continues on its orbit. The solstice doesn't always occur on the 21st of December. Sometimes it nudges into the early hours of the 22nd, which will happen again next year. The hours of day also varies. Last year it arrived at 17:11. Next year it will be at 04:38. So whatever day it's going to happen on, right, next year, for many commuters, it means leaving the house and returning from work in darkness. Now, the other thing I need to tell you is that, which is an observation I didn't know. So before I go into that, just wanted to just wish you all a happy winter solstice, because it actually means that winter starts. It didn't start when we thought it was freezing. It starts in the morning, and at around about 8 o'clock in the morning, well, about 7:45 to about 10 a.m, the Stonehenge is going to be opening up for people to go into the monument and celebrate the rising of the sun, and all that malarkey. But what I didn't know is...
That'd be nice, actually.
I know, but we don't have to go that far. We don't, if we didn't want to, because mapping experts have identified a curious cluster of 7 roads around Swan Street in Manchester.
7 roads?
No. Yeah, cluster of 7 roads around Swan Street in Manchester,
Good,
which are all perfectly aligned with the midwinter sun, just like the prehistoric monument at Stonehenge.
And how far
Right.
that is from us?
I don't know, you'll have to Google it, but it's in the middle of Manchester. Sun
okay.
worshippers, hoping to mark the winter solstice on Sunday, could avoid a trip to Stonehenge and celebrate on the back streets of Manchester's northern quarter instead. Yeah. Map experts have identified a curious cluster of 7 roads, as I said, around Swan Street, which are all perfectly aligned with the midwinter sun, just like the prehistoric stones in Wiltshire, more than 200 miles away. It means that the roads all point directly in the direction of the sun on the shortest day of the year, on the 21st of December. The streets in question are already steeped in history, as they stand in the cradle of the Industrial Revolution, but their alignment with the midwinter solstice was not known by local historians until now. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It is not clear if planners deliberately laid out the roads in the area to line up with the solstice, or if the alignment is a coincidental. As well as Swan Street, which is a home to legendary music venue Band on the Wall, the other roads in alignment...
Now I know where it is.
Do you?
Yes.
The other roads on alignment is Cable Street, Addington Street, Marshall Street and Bendick Street, which all lie in the grid to the north. They are joined by Cotton Street and Gun Street, which runs alongside Great Ancoat Street. Right?
Yes.
The 7 roads are among a number of other routes around Greater Manchester identified as lining up with the winter solstice on a plan created by mapping expert Dimi Standco. Another one for them bloody tongue twisters. However, the roads adjacent to the northern quarter are unusual because there are so many of them clustered together in the same line. Dimi has identified streets in cities around the world which align with the winter and summer solstice using the Open Street Map project, in which volunteers post the coordinates of streets online and make them freely available. Since publishing his maps online, he has been sent pictures of the rising and setting sun by people living on the streets in question. I was really surprised that so many people picked it up, he said. The main purpose of this project was to encourage people learning more about the history of their local area. Dimi said he believed the fact that the roads near the northern quarter are all aligned with the rising midwinter sun could be an accident because of the circular centre of Manchester. Tour guide Elizabeth Stibbering, who takes tours around Ancoats and New Cross, said the area had been covered in farmland until the late 1770s, when farmers sold off land to the builders. I hadn't heard this link to the solstice before, but I think it is likely to be a random coincidence, she said. The streets are in a gridiron pattern because they were sold as parcels of land. It's something I would need to look into further to see how the fields were laid out before the roads were built. London-based Dimi, who works in IT, added that he thought a section of Claremont Road at the edge of Alexandra Park in Whalley Range is more likely to have been designed to line up with the midwinter sunrise. He added Alexandra Park was designed in 1868, and I believe there is a better probability its northern part is aligned in the direction of solstice intentionally. It looks like its northern entrance is a good place to meet the sunrise on Sunday. However, any druid planning on donning their robes to hail the rising sun in Ancoats or Whalley Range is likely to be disappointed. The latest weather forecast is for heavy cloud and rain.
Okay, well, you did that, Doc. He said he doesn't see it as winter. He sees it as the first day of spring. Where he is?
First day of spring.
Well, he's in up there with all the snow at the moment, isn't he?
He is, isn't he?
He's had a lot of that recently.
So,
and he said, did you know, although this is winter, for us, the Earth is closer to the sun now than it is in our summer. And Viscount said, yes, he knew that, hence the blinding sun when driving. Yes, there's nothing worse than a winter sun. It's so low,
no,
isn't it?
This is it. So, but that was quite interesting to know, though, that there is alignment in Manchester, wasn't it?
It is.
But apparently there's quite a few all over the world, I think, that is found. So,
well, if obviously it goes east-west, doesn't it?
Yeah.
If you've got a road that goes east-west, then you're going to see the rising sun from one direction, aren't you?
Yes.
And the setting sun in the other.
This is it. Right. So on to tonight's guest. Okay. We've had loads of people that have contacted us in the hope of winning her book.
But can I just say, before she goes any further,
Go on.
Sue is not a reader.
No, I'm not.
She doesn't sit and read books like I do.
No.
And yet she has sat and read nearly both of these books.
I have.
Yeah. You read the one that was in your hand now.
Yeah.
Straight off. There you go.
I think I read it in 3 days.
And then you're halfway through the other one, aren't you?
I'm getting there.
So it says something that Sue actually reads it all the way.
Yes, I need to have something that's going to interest me. So
I'll let her do it next time then, Andy.
let her do what?
She says, he said, sorry, Steve, but Sue's reading was very good.
No, don't, no, 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 no. So,
By the way, everybody, Merry Christmas.
yes, Merry Christmas to you all, and to all a good night. No, 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 sorry. Better not say that. Okay.
Not yet. Not yet.
So, what we're going to do is, I'm going to be calling Miss
Roberta.
Roberta Grimes. I'm just trying to find them. Bear with me.
Oh, what have you lost?
I'm just trying to find them.
That'll do. And he said, Happy Solstice and Sodexmas.
Happy solstice and Sodexmas.
Yep.
Happy Yule time.
Happy Yule, yes.
Right. 2 minutes. Let me just.
Yes, Christmas is nice, but it's totally in the wrong time of year.
Yes. It is in the wrong time of year.
As we all know.
Oh.
But they had to do something to put in place of the pagan ritual, didn't they?
Right, as I was
Celebration?
about to say.
Go on in.
Right, we are going to contact
You've been
Roberta.
typing away there. What have you
I
been
know,
typing?
I was trying to go. I have to do the blooming Twitter thing and all, don't I? That's the thing. Right, as I was about to say, Roberta is an Austin-based business attorney who had two extraordinary experiences of light in childhood that prompted her to spend decades studying nearly 200 years of abundant and consistent communications from the dead. Roberta shares many of her discoveries in her latest book, The Fun of Dying, Find Out What Really Happens, and its sequel, The Fun of Staying in Touch, which details some astonishing recent events in the field of afterlife communications. We're going to contact Roberta now, which says she's away, which I'm hoping she isn't.
Listen. And can I say, Roberta is the happiest soul we've ever spoken to.
She sounds very, very happy in herself,
She does.
doesn't she? That's Roberta we're talking about. Are you there, Roberta?
Hi, yes.
We're just saying that you seem a happy soul when we speak to you.
Well, but how can you not be happy? Because everything is good. It turns out all the things we used to worry about, we don't have to worry about now.
Well, hopefully you're going to convince everybody tonight.
I'll try.
Welcome to the show, Roberta. We've got a few people in the chat room. Hopefully they'll have some questions for you a bit later on. But first of all, can you tell us a bit about yourself, Roberta?
Well, I'm a business attorney.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a wife of 42 years and a mother of 3 and a grandmother of 5.
Uh-huh.
And I'm a perfectly ordinary person, except that I've always had a rather unusual hobby, which has been investigating what happens at and after death.
Right, okay. Now, you've studied this quite a lot, haven't you? You've really looked into this, haven't you? And
I've spent my life doing it, and I'm in my 60s.
Right.
So I've done it forever.
When did you actually start, Roberta?
When I was in my 20s.
In your 20s. And is this all spurred from, I believe you had a light experience when you were a child?
I did. When I was 8, which was in April of 1955, I woke up in the middle of the night and knew there was no God, and I was terrified. And as I was becoming terrified, there was this brilliant flash of white light in the room, which shone on the wallpaper and the toys, so I remember to this day what that room looked like. And a young male voice said, "You wouldn't know what it is to have me unless you knew what it is to be without me. I will never leave you again."
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you're 8, because everything is surprising, nothing really is surprising, I thought it was really handy. If you forget there's a God, they remind you. And I went about my life thinking that I would hear from someone. At some point you learn the facts of life. You learn to drive a car. At some point you learn what happens if you forget there's a God. But of course, I never did learn. And so eventually I had to figure it out for myself, and that's when I started doing this research.
So how you say you felt a bit scared when you found out there was no God? Obviously, some people or most people, they believe in God and the doctrines of what's going on there and about life, and through Jesus Christ and everything. How do you actually look at it now?
Well, when I say I realized there was no God, what I felt was a spiritual hollow where there never had been one before. And
Yeah.
I believe that the voice was my spirit guide who had withdrawn, and then come back so I would know the difference. I
Yeah.
think that's really what happened.
Uh-huh.
I don't believe in the Christian God either.
No.
The Christian God does not exist. What exists is an extremely powerful energy that brings forth the universe, and our minds are part of that energy. That's what really exists. I don't even call it God because the word God puts so many negative connotations in our minds.
Now,
But it's real. This is a real energy, and our minds are part of it. So our minds are eternal. We never began, we never will end.
I very much agree with that. I
You
really
agree
That's
do.
with
what. Thank you for that support.
I mean, they're lovely lovely parables, and they try and teach us a lesson, but that's it. It's
What I've discovered is that Jesus told us things 2,000 years ago about God, reality, death, and the afterlife that we could not have confirmed until at least the early 20th century. 95% of what he says in the Gospels, I can show you what he meant from the afterlife evidence. But Christianity doesn't follow the Gospels really at all. Jesus never says that God is so unloving that he had to come and die for our sins. Jesus says God is infinite love, and that turns out to be right. God doesn't judge us. No one doing this research has ever found a single instance of God judging anybody.
Now,
No one has.
Sorry, carry on.
Well, I just wanted to say, and no one has ever found an instance where Jesus needed to be our Redeemer. No one has found an instance where someone couldn't go to the next level because he wasn't a Christian. All those things are not true.
So, if that's how you feel about it, why do you actually? I noticed that that all your chapters start off with quotes, and you always have one there from Jesus. Why is that?
I think that the most important person who ever has walked the earth is Jesus, because Jesus told us things 2,000 years ago that had to have come directly from God, and now we can confirm what he meant. So he is very, 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 very important.
Right.
Christianity is not right. Christianity does not follow Jesus really at all. It's a coincidence, apparently, that they've chosen to use his name. But Jesus, I'm a follower of Jesus, but I'm not a Christian.
Right, okay. So we'll start off, you wrote your first book, The Fun of Dying, What Happens Next. I haven't read it yet. I'm getting through it, but so I can't really comment much on there. But what made you decide to write that one?
In April seems to be my month for some reason. In April of 2009, I decided that since I'd had such a wonderful life, and I had figured all this out by then, I decided I would give my life to God, whatever was left of it. So I started praying a gratitude affirmation. I started praying a couple times a day. Thank you for giving me work to do. Thank you for showing me how to do it. I'm not praying from lack. I'm praying from the abundance of the fact that I know there's something I'm supposed to be doing. I just, thank you for showing me what it is.
Yeah.
By August, I had started to write that book, and I had no idea that I even was going to write a book. It just started happening. And that's the same way the Fun of Staying in Touch came as well. I knew that there was going to be a book called that someday, and then one day I suddenly started writing it. If you allow God to do it, and I'm sorry to say God, if you allow Eternal Mind to do it, you will find that you have wonderful work to do that you had no idea you were going to do, but it's so much better than anything you could think up yourself.
So one of the first questions I need to ask you is, I'll be truthful with you. When I was advertising what was happening tonight, in our interview, you class yourself as an afterlife expert. People were saying, what makes you the expert? Can you explain that for me?
The only reason that I'm a quote expert is that I have devoted my life to trying to understand what's going on. We have abundant and consistent communications from the dead, the best of which were received between 1900 and 1950. Mm-hmm. Most people are not even aware that these communications exist, but there was an effort around the turn of the previous century by the dead to make their presence known to us. And the evidence received then was so good, so consistent, so amazing, that if mainstream science had not decided to turn itself into a belief system, but it had instead open-mindedly studied the evidence, everybody living, everybody listening now would have known from birth that our minds are eternal. But because this was such good evidence and scientists didn't want to touch it, they made atheism a fundamental dogma. Anything with a dogma is a religion. It's a belief system.
Yeah.
So at that point, about 100 years ago, mainstream science went off the rails. But first I've studied, to finish answering how I became an expert, first I spent decades reading hundreds and hundreds of communications from dead people, looking for as many as I could possibly find that were received before 1950. Then I've looked at quantum physics, because the physics of the afterlife is very different from the physics of this level of reality. But quantum physics gives us insights and help us understand that it really is a plug between this level and most of reality. And when I've looked at what consciousness researchers are showing us, little facts from science, big facts from science, all fit together. And when we put them together, we find not only what death is, how it happens, what our minds are, what happens after death, but we also learn that we've really discovered a whole new physics. The physics that will be dominant by the end of this century is consciousness-based. That's where the theory of everything will come from. And I feel so bad. People for now are stuck with non-physicists because physicists are so determined to have physics, have reality be physical, that they refuse to even look at the possibility that the unifying theory is going to be consciousness. But it will be. That day will come.
Right. I've been asking here from Andy, where do you find the evidence?
Well, before about 1975, it was not easy to find evidence of the afterlife.
Okay.
But then at that point, Raymond Moody wrote Life After Life, where he coined the term near-death experiences, and that started an interest in death, which was great because we started to get some good books, which the great thing about these books was they all had bibliographies, and those bibliographies led me to other books, which led me to other books, and I started to discover all this wonderful material that had been received 100 years ago. I mean, I had to buy some of these books, as rare books, and this, of course, is before the internet, so it was difficult to track them down. Others have been reprinted, but it's relatively easy. In the back of The Fun of Dying and The Fun of Staying in Touch, I give about 70 books, which if someone reads them, or even reads a number of them, you'll know everything I know. I mean, I'd love everybody to know all the stuff that I know. There's no earthly reason that any of this should be secret, because it's the greatest news you could possibly come across. Your mind is eternal. Infinite mind is so perfectly loving. You are the best beloved child of an infinitely powerful eternal mind. How could any news be better than that?
Well, I must admit, it got me thinking, to be honest with you, and I don't know whether people will agree with me or not, but I did voice my opinion to one of my friends on Facebook, and I spoke to Steve about it as well the other night. It sort of came to me like, I don't know, like you do, made me think that technically, when it comes to your body, your brain is like the battery, and your heart is the engine, so to speak, because it's pumping and what have you. But I couldn't comprehend where everything you learn through life can be trapped in one muscle, so to speak. So
it's not.
I'm wondering,
you're right.
Like you say, it makes me wonder about where all this knowledge is going to. It can't just be stuck in that blob that's stuck in your head, So
you're right.
So I'm thinking about this consciousness, as you call it in the book, and it's making me feel as though, that sort of, for want of a better word, that ether or whatever is what goes on into life, if you understand what I mean.
Yes. Yeah. The thing is, you're basically, your brain is like a two-way radio in the head of a meat robot.
Yeah.
Which is very much like the blue body that Jake had in the movie Avatar. If anyone has seen that movie, your mind is safe in eternal mind. Your mind is nowhere near your body. Your body is picking up the signal from your mind and is transmitting signals back to your mind. And it's in your mind that your mind is very powerful. You have very little access to it while you're in a body. Your body limits that access. The dead, for example, can easily manipulate matter. They can make objects appear and disappear. They can move matter. All of this is done with their minds. They're much more powerful than we. We'll be that way too once we also are dead. But the body is a limiter. But you're absolutely right. Your memories are not stored in your brain. There's so much evidence that our brains do not generate consciousness, but instead receive it. The evidence is so abundant that the fact that scientists do not admit it is making them ridiculous. To keep insisting that the Earth is flat when there's so much evidence that that's just not true.
Yeah.
Again, they're in the bushes now. They're off the trail altogether, and they're floundering, trying to keep this illusion that they've got going a bit longer so they can finish their careers, because nobody wants to be the one who gets to the age of 40 and discovers everything he's studied his whole life is basically wrong.
No, this is it. And there's a lot of people that are hoping that there is something there when they do die, that they will meet up with their loved ones.
Yes, and they will. They absolutely will. That's 100% guaranteed.
You can guarantee it.
Yes.
Yes. That's like that's one big announcement there, isn't it? Really, guaranteed.
Yes. I mean, it's so obvious to anybody who has given a little time even to looking at the evidence. I'm meeting more and more people who also have had my unusual hobby, and when I meet them, we complete each other's sentences. We've all achieved precisely the same conclusions. I do podcasts, which are weekly. If you go to iTunes, they're available for free. Seek Reality with Roberta Grimes, because we all should be seeking reality, for heaven's sake.
Yeah.
And I have guests on who talk about these topics. I never interview them ahead of time.
No.
I don't have to know what they're going to say, because I know already what they're going to say.
Yeah.
And I've never found anyone who's reached other conclusions than what I have once they've done the research.
It sounds a bit. I'm not dissing here, but it's kind of a nice thing to believe, and if you're wrong, it doesn't really matter, because if there's nothing there, it's just
you won't be available to moan at it.
Yeah.
Sort of thing.
I mean, it's not just. It's any belief, really.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you can take whatever makes you feel at ease with yourself, and because it doesn't really matter, because at the end of the day, if when you die there's nothing there,
then
who are you going to moan at?
It's impossible for your mind to die. Your mind cannot die. It never began and it never will end. It is part of eternal mind. And that being the case, it changes all of life from a tragedy to a comedy. I mean, life could be tragic. We have all these dreams and hopes, and then we turn into dust, and where is it? I mean, what was the point of even going through that?
Yeah.
Well, it turns out that the point is we are here to learn lessons. We plan a lifetime, just as you'd plan a rough day in school, and you learn the lessons, and then you go home to where we spend 99.9% of eternity, which is a long time. So we need a sort of place to go and play, and it's a beautiful place. Oh my goodness, much better than anyone has ever imagined and told you.
Well, David Lloyd's joined us, and he's asked he said it's an interesting chat, by the way, and he would like to know if you are aware of Anthony Peake's and his work, where he has said the pineal gland is possibly being the gateway to the spiritual realms.
What is the gateway?
The pineal gland. Pineal gland?
Yes, the pineal gland is one of the chakras, and I know very little about chakras.
Mhm.
I'm very much a one-trick pony. Death and the period right after death, that's my area of study.
Yeah.
But in fact, it's a very important chakra. Someone taught me that if you imagine energy concentrating there, and then you project spiritual light out into the room, you can, and send it to people that you love, you actually can raise them spiritually. And I experimented with this some years ago, and I found that it seems to work. But again, it's not an area I've really focused
Right.
my thought on.
Okay.
There doesn't seem to be a part of the body that matters when it comes to the period, actual death and the period right after death. It seems to be just a perfectly natural process that the energetic interior part of our we're built like a Matryoshka doll. We're built with nested energy bodies, one of which is visible. That's what we think of as material, but it's still only energy. The ones that are interior to the physical, what looks like a physical body, roll up into your chest and then leave either through the top of the head or through the chest. And it's easy and it's fun and it's people who have been through it say it's a deliciously pleasurable feeling to leave the body. And from then on, it is nothing but fun. I mean, the titles of my book really understate the reality.
Now,
it's the most fun you've ever had.
Yeah.
It sounds like you're describing astral travel.
Well, yes, during your lifetime, you go through a similar process. The difference is that when you're, and by the way, everybody does it. Some people can astral travel consciously. Most of us just do it in our sleep. But we meet with our guides, we meet with our loved ones, we do, take courses. We do a lot of stuff while our bodies sleep. And then we go back into our bodies, and then they wake up. But what the difference is that there's what the Bible calls a silver cord, an energy cord that attaches that energy body to the what we think of as the physical body and keeps us, keeps it alive while we're out of it.
Mm-hmm.
When we're ready to die, what had been a very tough cord that would let you go to the end of the universe when your body was sleeping. I mean, you could go anywhere when you're traveling out of body, but when it's time for you to die, that cord just frays. You've left your body, and the cord frays and disintegrates, and that's that.
Now, when you do die, is a question that's from Ghost Rider, which is something that I've always thought about. Steve's nan, she was married 2 or 3 times, sort of thing, in life. And he's asking, can you choose which family members to meet after your death? So
absolutely,
is that possible?
Oh yes. The only thing that matters, whether here or there, is love.
Mm-hmm.
Love matters there so much that if there is a loving connection between you and anyone, that affinity draws you together. If there's not a loving connection, you can avoid all contact.
Wow.
The Bible says that death ends marriage, and it certainly does. There's no marriage there, but people who have been loving spouses in this lifetime will often choose to spend a lot of time together or live together.
Yeah.
In the afterlife. It's just optional. You don't have to do it.
Now, you've contacted dead loved ones, haven't you?
Of course.
And you do that, I believe you do that between yourself. You don't use a medium or anything, and you don't call yourself a medium.
I have to. I have to use a medium.
You have to use a medium.
One of the things that we all need to do is determine which gifts to develop. And I decided early on that my job was to be a dry researcher. I'm an attorney. I understand how to use evidence and how to build a case. And if I were telling you, most of this I got, through my guides and angels, and you'd say, well, airy-fairy stuff, it doesn't matter. So I only look at facts. I've determined not to be psychic, which is not to say that we all are psychic. We all have the latent ability to connect directly with our loved ones. But I tell them, use the phone because I'm just not going to do it directly. It's certainly not on a conscious level.
So to use one of the titles of your chapter, one of your chapters in your book, the one we're giving away tonight, which will be getting you to pick a number between 1 and 27. Why is communication between the dead and the living so difficult?
Well, you have to understand what reality actually is. There are at least 6 levels of higher vibratory energy realities that exist exactly where this one is. And the easiest way to imagine how that's possible is to think of your television set. Your mind is like that television. Right now, it's tuned to what we think is the lowest vibratory rate of reality. This, what we think of as a material level, and it's tuned to that body on this material level. When you die, all it does is to change channels up 3 or 4, and it picks up a whole new solid reality in the same place. Mm-hmm. So it's for us to communicate with the dead is very much like your Channel 4 newsman talk to your Channel 7 newsman when they're both live on air and they don't have a cell phone in hand. It's not possible. They're on different energy, different channels.
Yeah.
So what happens in order to make communication possible is that the dead, you can go lower with your vibratory rate, your mind's vibratory rate. You really can't go higher except with great difficulty, and they tell us it's really impossible. So your spiritual level of development determines where you are in terms of the levels you can reach in the afterlife. Most people can at least get to level 3. That's where I think most of us actually enter the afterlife. It's beautiful, by the way. So what happens is that our dead loved ones, because they love us, that affinity draws them to lower their vibratory rate and be very close to us. So they're right here around us whenever they choose to be, and they can read our minds, yes, and it's all very cozy, but they need to be able to make their presence known to us, and that's very difficult. I talk in The Fun of Staying in Touch about the ways that they've developed over millennia, apparently, to give us signs of their survival. Some of them are very dramatic. I mean, to have them literally appear in front of you is pretty spectacular. And the evidence is that close to 50% of spouses will see a vision of the dead spouse within the first year after the death. So some of them are spectacular. But they're still fighting that vibratory difference, which is the reason why we're having so much trouble. We're working hard, or actually the dead are the ones working the hardest, to come up with an electronic means of communication. We call it a soul phone, because once that happens, these Luddite scientists will no longer be able to deny the fact that our minds are eternal, and that's going to make it a lot easier for everybody else to go ahead with our study and improve our lives immeasurably by educating ourselves about the truth of who and what we are.
Another question for you is, what do you feel about reincarnation? Now, you mentioned that in your book.
Well, I don't like all this stuff, but I sort of try to go with the evidence. The evidence for reincarnation is incontrovertible. We do live multiple lives. However, beyond this level of reality, there's no objective time. And according to the dead, the upper level, people who have reached level 5 or 6 and communicate with us, all of our lifetimes and all of history are all happening at the same time. There's subjective evidence. I mean, that's what the dead tell us. And there's evidence that's true. Sometimes, rarely, there'll be a bleed through from one lifetime to another. I've heard people talk about it. People who are, normal, credible people talk about it. And in addition, Brian Weiss, who is the pioneer of past life regression therapy, you've got a phobia or an illness or something in this lifetime, he'll regress you to where that problem started in a previous lifetime, and just remembering the event will get rid of the problem. And I've had it happen to me, so I know it works beautifully. But when he couldn't find the cause in prior lifetimes, he started progressing people to future lives, and he would find he could sometimes discover that a future lifetime was causing a phobia in this lifetime or some other issue, which makes your eyes cross when you think about it. But that's what the science tells us, and that's what actually seems to be happening.
Right. Now, going back to the electronics and everything of it, and the ways of communicating, Steve's grandmother, when she was alive, she obviously knew, as I told you previously, that we're paranormal investigators, ghost hunters. And as a joke, she turned around and said, "When I die, I'll come back and prove it to you if it's real." Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And for a good 3 to 6 months after she died, our TV would turn over,
Yes.
and the remote control would be on the coffee table.
Yep.
The sky would turn over. Sky would turn over and onto another channel, and you'd actually. I don't think we actually saw the numbers go, did we? Sort of like 101. It just went onto another channel, and a couple of times the TV would turn off. It never turned on.
Yes, yeah, that's what they do.
You know.
Because they're energy beings, it's very easy for them to mess with electricity.
Mm-hmm.
They frequently will change channels, turn TVs on, or turn music on, or turn them off, and do this just to let us know they're there. I talk in the fun of staying in touch about my brother-in-law, who was very, very powerful being after he died, and the things he did with electricity.
Yeah.
But they'll blink the lights. They'll do. Sometimes there are people who say that their loved one is sufficiently powerful that whenever they walk along a highway, the lights above them will blink out.
Yeah.
Which is very inconvenient for the city people who then have to replace those lights. But that seems to be, they don't care about that apparently.
You got 2 more questions.
Yeah, a couple of more questions we have in the chat room for you. One reverts back to the reincarnation, but we'll come to that in a moment. What do you think about the spirits that were alive 200 years ago? Can they contact us?
The connection.
I think we're looking on the ghost hunting side of it. I'm not sure.
Yeah, and that's an important distinction. It seems to be the case. Death is a natural process, but we don't realize that. Partly because both our religion and our science have let us down so badly.
Mm-hmm.
We're basically clueless when we leave our bodies. Fortunately, there are loved ones who come for us and who escort us to the levels to which we're suited after death.
Yeah.
So our vibratory rate at the point we've left our bodies is already raised. We are no longer at the same low vibratory rate we were at when we were here. But there we are out of our bodies. We have no idea what's going on. And our people around our deathbed are crying. They're upset. We want to comfort them. You can't do that. If you remember nothing else from this evening, please remember, do not attempt to contact or talk with the living after you have left your body and the body has died, because all you do then is lower your vibratory rate. You can no longer see your deathbed visitors who've come to escort you, and you can make yourself into an earthbound being and be that way for centuries. It doesn't seem like time is passing, apparently, to these beings. They have no idea in some cases they're dead. They just think weird stuff is going on, but they go about their routines. People will say, "Oh, there's this woman who appears in my kitchen and then she walks through the wall." Well, in her lifetime, that was a doorway, and in her mind, in the reality she still lives in, it's still that same day she died, and it's still a doorway. So those are the people who, if you are a ghost hunter, you are trying to rescue.
Yeah.
That seems to be a common way people become earthbound.
Okay.
Those people you still can contact. And in fact, they seem to react much more readily to people who are either living or just have died than to people who have long been dead and try to come for them. I mean, their loved ones are still trying to get their attention,
Right.
but they need your help as a living person to say, look around, don't you see the people you love, and try to get them to raise their vibration to the point where they can see the dead.
Yeah.
So those people you can reach. Someone who died 200 years ago, even if they're your ancestor, there's no loving connection. So if they've completed their transition,
Yeah.
at the present state of our technology, there isn't a good way to communicate with them. It's as if you don't have their cell phone number or something,
Yeah.
and they don't have you.
Most of the English, I don't know about the American ghost hunters, but most of the English ghost hunters, they'll probably go to a place, say for instance, that's got the ghost of Queen Anne roaming around, or said to be roaming around, so they'll go and find out whether that's true or not, or from way back in Henry VIII's day or something like
Sure.
that. So that's the sort of thing that English ghost hunters are looking for, where they say that it's haunted by a cavalier or something like that.
Yeah, that's great.
You know.
Well, you're very fortunate that you have these interesting, very ancient people that you can be playing with.
Going back to the reincarnation, Andy's trying to get it round in his head that if there is reincarnation and after death communication, what is actually reincarnating? Do you know? Or I've noticed in your book you refer to others publications.
What seems to be the case is that our multiple lives are aspects of our eternal minds. They're us, but they're like fragments or aspects of us. One very high level being, a sixth level being who was channeled in the first half of the previous century, said there is reincarnation, but you cannot possibly understand it while you're in bodies. It doesn't happen the way you think. The easiest way to think of it is that you are a vessel out of which each lifetime is dipped and back into which each lifetime is poured. So that's kind of how I think of it. It also seems to be the case, just anecdotally, that you can be living a new Earth lifetime and still be there. One communication that happened in the early part of the 20th century involved someone saying, to someone who had recently died, well, have you seen Aunt Martha or someone? And he said, well, yes, actually, I'm looking at her right now, but she's sitting on a bench and she's really not able to communicate with you because she's having an Earth lifetime. And that made my eyes cross to think of. But time being so different there, it's quite possible that, in fact, you could do that. You could be in two places at once.
Yeah.
It just is distracting, apparently, to do that.
Now, Ghost Rider asked a few questions back. Do animals do the same thing?
Animals are a different class.
Uh-huh.
There seem to be species-specific group souls to which most animals return.
Yeah.
However, if an animal of any species has been loved by and has loved a human being, that animal develops a distinct personality, believe it or not, and goes to our afterlife levels and waits there for us. And so every pet you've ever loved is waiting for you. My horse is waiting for me, and I know that. I had a communication dream from him. It could be a lion in a zoo. If somebody had loved that animal will be waiting and will welcome you.
Okay, so going back to signs and stuff, you talk about synchronicities and numbers and dreams and coincidences. What is it that we should be looking for?
Oh my goodness, there's so many things. It's common now that we have digital, clocks. It's common for them to use digital clocks all on the same number as signs, and it'll be specific to you. I think it's mostly our guides that are using these, and it's mostly reassurance. But I get 333, 444, or 555 almost every day. I can't catch them if I'm looking for them, but they have the ability to direct our attention at the right moment to the clock. So you'll be working on your computer, everything will be fine, you'll be busy, and all of a sudden you'll notice that you glanced up and it's 3:33. And that's what they do. 1111 seems to be the one most reported. That's sort of the gold standard. But some people repeatedly will get a different set, and whatever is specific to you and your guides is what you'll get.
Right. Do you have any questions?
If we're living multiple lives at the same time, are we actually reincarnating, or are we just coming across our other self?
It's very hard for us to contemplate the fact that time is not real. So it is us reincarnating, but time just doesn't work. It's not linear the way we think of it as linear. The lives we have seem to be influencing one another. So we are growing simultaneously in multiple periods of time, and we plan each lifetime based on the history. So this is hard for even me to get. Even I've been studying this all my life. Once we've been through this lifetime, we go through a life review in which we get to relive the whole of our life exactly as it happened, and also feel how we made every other person feel. And people tell us that's very hard to go through. We then have to forgive ourselves, which most of us manage to do. If we don't, then we punish ourselves, which you just don't want to get into. So learning to forgive, as Jesus said, to forgive while you're here is very important. But once we've then done that, we have playtime, but we hunger for spiritual growth when we're there as you cannot imagine. If you could wrap every possible human hunger, whether it's thirst, hunger for food, hunger for sex, hunger for anything, if you could wrap all those hungers together, it doesn't even come close to how desperate we are for spiritual growth when we're there. And the only way to get it, just as if you want muscles, big muscles, you have to go to the gym to get those muscles. So, all to your lifetime, all of the negative things are really just machines in the gym, opportunities for you to learn to sort of stretch your ability to love, stretch your ability to forgive. We need to look at them that way. They're not tragedies. They're important opportunities for growth spiritually. So that's what we do. We basically plan, if we had in this lifetime, for example, with forgiving somebody who had cheated us in a business deal or something, we will plan a worse such situation into another lifetime, it could be a future lifetime or it could be a past one. We will plan that experience so that we will have another opportunity to stretch that muscle in the way we need to do it in order to grow spiritually. But it's hard to understand because we again think it has to be linear, but time isn't linear. So I mean, there are thought experiments you can do with what this really means, which if I come on your show, I'll help you go through it because there are some amazing things that may be true about what reality actually is and how it's all going to turn out.
I think if.
No, this is wonderful. Great questions, by the way. I love it when people are really thinking about this. It's so important.
Yeah. So you talk a lot about the quantum physics of it all. So how did you actually get into, setting your brain into all this and doing all this research before you wrote the books? You've obviously were fired up to do so from the experiences that you've had. Is it something you wanted to find out for yourself, whether when we die it's the end and that's it?
Oh, yeah, it was all for me. It was real. It was. I mean, I knew there had to be something. I think it's harder to do afterlife research if you're still wondering. But those experiences when I was a child proved to me there's something there. So I never really doubted. I just wanted to know it. I started out craving to know, but very soon I was so caught up in the wonder of what I was learning that it became an end in itself. It was like a drug, because the more I learned, the more I realized that all these people were going to the same place. The physics was the same, the way they dressed, the things they did, the process, it was all the same. So this was real. It was like discovering the new world. It was the most fun you could have possibly imagined to do this work.
Dave said, we've got Dave here. You got to really read through the lines of this chat room. It can be squinted up at times. Dave said, as far as he can see, we are spiritual beings experiencing life through our bodies. We focus on this life through our consciousness, which is not local to the brain. So how do you feel about that?
Yes, he's right. Dave, you and I are kindred spirits. That's wonderful. That's exactly right. Perfectly right.
Perfectly right. So he's got it spot on, has he?
He's totally spot on. Yes.
Right. Well done, Dave. So basically, as I say, you've written these books anyway, and as I say, Steve mentioned before you came on that, as I said to you, I don't read books. They have to really get me for me to read them. I think I read this in 3 days. So, when I got the chance to read it, I picked it up. But,
and thank you very much, by the way, for sending us 2 copies.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm thrilled to be able to help.
One for me or one for them. So
this is the most fun anyone could possibly have to do this work, and I'm just hoping that anyone who gets that book will feel inspired to do his or her own research. It's a great journey.
Now, obviously, your other book is also available. Whereabouts can you get these books if you're not lucky enough to win them?
They're you could get them on Amazon, both in Kindle and in in print. And you
Okay.
should be I mean, Amazon UK sends me royalties, so I'm sure that you can get them there.
Yeah, I'm
through
sure we
Amazon.
can. So, and your website is
My
Rosemary
website
Grimes.
is robertagrimes.com. I also do the podcasts, and we're about to put a podcast page there, so you'll be able to find out where they are. But for now, if you just go to iTunes and Google in there or search for Seek Reality with Roberta Grimes, you can find the podcast. We have 170,000 iTunes subscribers now. That's how many people. I mean, we gain 20,000 a month. People are desperate to know what's really going on, and we can know it. So it's time for everyone to really know.
So, as I say, it's such a massive subject.
Would you say that with all the science, whether it be quantum or otherwise, and all the spiritualism going around, that ideally we want to find that middle ground?
What we want to do is find the truth. To me, there are ways that religion can contribute, primarily by getting rid of all the dogmas and just following Jesus. That would be a great start. There are ways that science can contribute. If we hadn't had all the work that's done in a number of fields, quantum physics and consciousness studies and others, we wouldn't be able to put it all together. So they can contribute, but they've got to stop ignoring this huge valley full of information between them that neither has been willing to look at. So yeah, it's time to just try to understand what's true without any dogmas at all.
David Lloyd says we're living in a hologram matrix.
Yes,
which we perceive through our senses, which is what David Icke's been saying apparently. So
there's a wonderful book called The Holographic Universe by Michael Talbot, and it's 20 some odd years old, but it's on the cutting edge still. I recommend it to everyone.
Yeah, you recommend quite a few books in this second book you've got for reading. And not only that are in print, but some that you can actually get free online as well.
Yes,
which I should be Googling sometime this week. But one thing I will say is you do mention the Avatar as well. You said it's a bit like the Avatar.
Yes.
The astral planing and everything. So it's a bit like the film Avatar.
The analogy there is, Jake is safe in a pod somewhere, and his blue body, he thinks he's in his blue body having experiences.
Yeah.
Well, our minds are safe in eternal mind, but we think we're in these bodies in this alien place. This is just your body is just a vehicle for you to explore and have experiences and grow spiritually much more easily than you can in the afterlife. In what we think of as the afterlife levels, but really they're the main levels where we live. In those places, life is too perfect. It's very difficult to grow spiritually there. We come here to do that.
Yeah. Well, for those that are interested in this second book, it tells you a lot about how you can communicate with others, with dead loved ones, which includes things like scrying, automatic writing, and other ancient methods, and also mediums. It also tells you about how they communicate with us by giving us signs like feathers and as well as maps and TVs going off and on and what have you.
Yeah.
So,
can I just ask? When we're talking about consciousness, are we talking about consciousness itself, or are we talking about self-conscious and awareness?
Well, see, and that's a very good question. Our awareness is part of this larger consciousness. What we think of as our consciousness here is a limited subset of our true consciousness, which is part of eternal mind. As best I've been able to determine, we actually have the powers, the abilities, which are infinite, of eternal mind. It's just that we can't experience them. But Jesus said, if you have as much faith as a grain of mustard seed, which is a tiny, tiny thing, you can tell this mountain to go throw itself into the sea and it will obey you. So he's telling us that we would have more access to our powerful eternal minds. If we believed, if we stopped thinking we can't do it, we'd be able to do it. It's just very hard to believe it because we've not been able to do it before.
Right, okay. We'll be back in just a moment. We're just going to play this quick advert, if you don't mind, and we'll be back to you soon.
Paranormal
Paranormal Intelligence Gathering Services Ghost Store is a one-stop shop for all of your ghost hunting gadgetry needs. Run by ghost hunters for ghost hunters, the shop is filled with all of the latest in investigation equipment, shipped in from all around the world, from high-quality digital dictaphones to EMF pumps, infrared illuminators to laser grid pens, CCTV equipment to data loggers. All of our equipment has already been imported, so you can buy it safe in the knowledge that there will be no hidden costs. And with our postage promise, you'll never pay more than the actual postage price. So visit www.the-pigs.co.uk/ghost store.
Yeah, we're talking to Roberta Grimes over there in Austin, Texas, on the fun of staying in touch with your loved ones. Her new book is The Fun of Staying in Touch, How Our Loved Ones Contact Us and How We Contact Them. And she's on the Skype with us now. Welcome back, Roberta.
I'm so happy. This is a lot of fun for me, by the way. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to talk with you all in the UK. This is
it's
great.
It really is great. It's good to have you on. And on the winter solstice that will be, I'm not sure about what it is in your country, but we will be celebrating the winter solstice over the next few hours. So
we will. I was last night Skyping to Australia, however, and they were in full summer. So there are places where the flowers are in bloom, just not where you and I are.
No. Well, as I say, you wrote this book, The Fun of Staying in Touch, How Our Loved Ones Contact Us and How We Contact Them. This came out this year, I believe.
Yes, it did, this fall, actually.
So what's next for Roberta Grimes? Does this follow on in sequence? Is there another book due?
There's a third one to come, which will probably come out in 2017. It's called The Fun of Growing Forever. Mm-hmm. And it's the hardest one for me to write because the evidence for the process, maybe it's the hardest one to write. The evidence for the process of our spiritual growth is pretty abundant, but it's harder to pull together and have it make sense because our ability to understand while we're in bodies is so limited.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, I also want to use it to give more details about the afterlife and more details about the interface that's always going on. So it'll have elements of both books, but its primary purpose will be as a guide, because of course all the stuff we're talking about is really about how to live. It's not about how to die. That's almost an ancillary issue. It's about how do we make the most, since we're here, and since we went to a lot of trouble to get here, and believe me, there are many more people who want slots on Earth than there are places to be. So we're lucky to be here. How do we make the most out of this lifetime and get the most spiritual growth possible? That's what The Fun of Growing Forever will be about.
Right, okay. Well, it's been great talking to you, Roberta. It's been a lovely enlightenment, for what of a better word. And I look forward to reading the rest of your first book. As I say, I've read your second one.
Well, if you have questions, or anyone does, rgrimes@robertagrimes.com. I answer emails.
Okay.
Always.
Okay. Now, we've got to pick the winner of our book tonight that you kindly offered for us. So could you give me a number between 1 and 27?
16.
16, okay.
16, 1 second. 1 second, 1 second.
1 second, 1 second.
And it's Sue.
Sue Harrison.
Yes.
Was that?
Oh, Haggis 4.
Oh, Haggis 4.
It's not actually in the chat room tonight, but yes, that's Sue.
All right, so we'll have to contact her and get her email, her postal address, so I can post it off to her after Christmas. Well done, Sue Harrison. But this book will be winging its way to you just after Christmas, when the post starts off again. So you're going to be writing your new book. What's going to be happening in between now and then, Roberta?
Well, I also do novels. If you go to robertagrimes.com, you can see that I've written, I guess, 5 or 6, and I'll be publishing one this coming year, and then one the year after that are part of a series that I'm doing to explore what we're learning about human nature and how we can use that to improve our lives. It's a multi-generational saga of a wealthy family, but I use it to illustrate some important things. And actually, people have enjoyed the books. I'm enjoying writing them, so that's what I do for play. And I still practice law. I'll never get that right, I guess. I'll probably do it forever.
Right. Andy's just said there's an irony Sue H getting it. I must admit she's recently lost a loved one that we know about, don't we, Steve?
Yes.
So yes, it is quite ironic that she won that. And he also says, no, don't stop. I'm loving it.
Oh, some of it.
So
I'm loving it too.
Yeah.
So we definitely have to get you back on.
Anytime. I'd love
Andy's
to
one
do
of them
it
people
anytime.
that gets the subject and he likes to tear it to pieces and find all the little bits. But at the end of the day, he just loves
He
the.
loves the topic of conversation.
He
doesn't
does, yes.
So he likes to find all the screws, take them out, and hopefully get them put back in again.
Well, the thing is, it's all good news. That's why it's so much fun to talk about. It's all true, it's all reality, and it's all good news. And we have to do this research ourselves because until, science gets a clue, and I'm not sure religions ever will, it's up to us to help one another to find the truth.
Well, hopefully when we get you back on again, we can get into a bit more elaboration of it and a bit more into the bones of it, if that's okay.
Great. That would be wonderful. I look forward to it.
Okay. Well, you have a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And
Merry Christmas to everybody on your side of the pond.
Yeah, and what we'll do is we'll contact you in the new year and sort out another date for your return.
That's wonderful. I appreciate it so much. Big hugs to all of you.
And to you. So stay in contact with us and don't be a stranger.
I won't be.
Okay.
Bless you, dear.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Night, Roberta.
Well, that was Roberta Grimes. Nice conversation, that.
It was.
Very, very bubbly. So, you know what I mean? Very, very bubbly person, isn't it?
It is.
And to guarantee it, I must admit, is something to believe in.
It is, but we're not exactly gonna sue her afterwards, are we?
True. So,
it's. I mean, what she says about she didn't think religion will ever get it. Religion will never get it because religion is about money.
But this is it. Yeah.
It's all about money and individual power, and that isn't what religion should be about. Well, well, maybe it is, but it's not what faith is about.
No, this is it. So, but and war really, apparently. So,
Well, yeah, there's been more wars fight over on religious grounds than anything else.
Yeah. So,
As I'm sure Andy will tell you.
So,
He's
anyway.
looked a lot of them things.
Yes. Well, let's get this out of the way.
Fed up of wading through the activities and events that other advertisers include? Find just what you're looking for at paranormaleventsforyou.com, your one-stop paranormal directory. Paranormaleventsforyou.com also offers banner advertising for only £10 per year. See our website for more details. Paranormaleventsforyou.com, your one-stop paranormal directory.
You're listening to the KTPF Community Talk Show with Steve and Suzanne Taggart, covering the supernatural, the paranormal, and other strange phenomena to keep the paranormal friendly.
Yeah, welcome back to the show. I do like that, I must admit. Sorry, but I do like that. But no, it was an interesting concept, and like David Lloyd said, it's something that others believe in as well.
It is, and it's not just off the top of her head thing. She's gone through.
She's gone through a lot of hard work.
Years
40 odd years.
Yeah, 40 odd years of going through people's statements, what people saw, what people think they saw, and all that, and she's come to these conclusions for it.
Well, this is it. So, but if at the end of the day it is all pie in the sky and what have you, again, like I said, I've always said, when we die, if it's a brick wall from then on, there's no thought, there's no recollection, no nothing, then we're not going to have the know-how, or we're just going to be, it's going to be like full stop period, that's it. So we're not going to have the nonce to, moan about it or anything like that.
I mean, let's face it, write down cards on the table. It doesn't matter whether you believe in what Roberta's telling you, whatever religion is telling you, or what you think yourself. At the end of the day, if it makes you feel better until the point when you actually die, what difference does it make? As long as you're not doing anybody else any harm in following it. Because once you go, you're going to find out the truth one way or another.
Oh, yeah.
If there's nothing, then whatever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So, but as I say, it's he says she's misrepresenting, or misunderstanding quantum physics.
Well, not really. I mean, some of it maybe, but at the end of the day, all science, doesn't matter whether it's quantum or not, they work a certain way. And they don't take into account the spiritual. So the spiritual side of things, it's not the way science works, because the spiritual side of it cannot be pinpointed. It cannot be put under a microscope and go, yeah, that's the spiritual side. Now we can take that into account. They don't do that because it can't be done. So all they can do is work on what they know.
But as I say, it's a nice thought, isn't it?
It is.
And she's a lovely woman.
I like it.
You know, isn't she?
Yeah,
she's so lovely.
I mean, you've been reading the books over the last couple of days, well, last week.
Yeah.
And
it's made me think.
And it's made you think. It's made you feel better about a few things.
Yeah. Whether it's right or wrong.
But that's what it's about. It's about getting some kind of understanding within yourself about things.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah. So that's it, finishing off the other book. We'll make us feel the same. Hey.
Yeah, I mean, TTGH said it's a theory she has. And ultimately, what else have we got when it comes to this side of things? None of us can prove it one way or the other. We can only go by what we've found out, what we've experienced ourselves, and go for and make a theory from that. So that's all any of us can do. And Dave, I said, who's on next week?
Who's on next week? I'm about to tell you.
Oh.
Next week, we are talking on the 34th anniversary. Rendlesham, yes. So, we just to let you know, we will be talking to Steve Mera. He'll be here live in the hub, and on the Skype we will be talking to Peter Robbins about Britain's Rothwell. The Rendlesham Forest incident, name given to a series of reported sightings of unexplained lights and the alleged landing of a craft or multiple crafts in Rendlesham Forest, Suffolk, England, just after midnight on December the 26th, 1980. So that's what we'll be talking about. And also, we may touch on the latest, what's the right word? Arguments, I suppose, that have been surrounding this issue. So, you never know.
Yes.
So, what do you reckon to that? And we got a cracking one for the first one of 2015.
First one.
The first one.
What was the first one?
Eric von Daniken. Here he comes. Here he comes. The man who's going to put the world to right.
Hello, Andy.
And tell us that Christmas, right? Father Christmas doesn't exist.
Don't you dare say that. I watched Miracle on 34th Street the other day, and the judge said he does.
Good evening, Andy.
Hello. Sorry, I'm in Glastonbury, so I can't speak too loud. It's not fair on the other people here.
Okay. You're in a what in a Glastonbury?
Say again?
You're in a what?
B&B, bed and breakfast.
Oh, right.
Glastonbury. Where I always come for the winter solstice.
Okay.
Ah.
Yes.
Go on then.
Where do I begin? Where do I start?
Oh, God.
Well, 2 points I was sort of half typing up a bit as well. There are certain things to do with... You can't hear me, John. Make your ears. There are certain elements of quantum mechanics that are as it is. And she's stated certain things in some of the stuff she's written in her book, which shows she doesn't really get a grip of what quantum mechanics is saying. For a start, we're talking about the fact that you have to accept all particles are in all states simultaneously until you observe them, and they will observe to be in a particular state. It doesn't mean they are in reality in that state. Now that's something that she says in her book. She's saying that when you do observe, I'm not going to talk if John can put rude things like that on the screen. If you are observing something, she says it's as if you then fix it into a particular state, which it isn't the case. It's only it only does that in your position as the observer. Now this is a fundamental element of quantum mechanics. It's the uncertainty principle. It's the strongest, most part of it, if you like. But she's, I'm afraid, misrepresented it in trying to say that somehow then fixes it into a certain state, which it doesn't. It's just your observation of the state gives the impression of it being in a certain state. Now, I mean, okay, you might say, well, what's that to do with what she was saying? But I mean, it's one of the ideas that underpins her understanding of quantum mechanics, which she then believes backs up some of the things she's saying in the parts of the book that I've read. But there's a fundamental flaw in what she's saying there. Also, the other thing that I was pointing out was she's talking about what's basically pure dualism, phenomenalism, where you've got the mind and the body are completely separate from each other, running parallel, and so one occupies the other. That's fair enough. But quantum mechanics is also saying that we're talking about complete oneness, that everything is just the one thing. There's no duality whatsoever. She keeps quoting Jesus. Now, Jesus comes from a Judeo-Christian background, which, okay, we can say has been altered by later Christian faith, which it has been, but it's still a fundamentally dualistic position, the idea of God and Jesus. Now, whether the version of God she wants to talk about is different to the Judeo-Christian God, fair enough, but it's still a concept of God separate from the universe, as its creator, as its evolver. She used that terminology in some parts of her book. So she's got two positions at the same time, which are contradictory. So there you go.
But isn't that duality?
Yeah, but you can't have both, Steve. You can't have one and the other. They're two different, fundamentally separate concept positions. They're contradictory compositions. Either you have oneness, complete single reality, whatever form that's in, or you have a duality of separate mind and body, separate God and separate reality. You can't have them both. And she's putting it, the way she's coming across was she was proposing both at the same time, which you can't do.
Well, what she's saying is that the mind is a one, but the body is separate because it's just a vessel.
That's fundamental dualism. It's a separation. Well, some parts she's saying that, but other parts she's saying total monoism, not monotheism, monoism.
Yeah, but because the same point. The body's not the energy; it's what's in it, isn't it?
Yeah, it's dualism. It's fundamental dualism she's been talking about. But another point, she's trying to talk about monoism. It's a different position. It's contradictory positions. Put it this way: either you're sitting at your desk in your house now, or you're playing football at Wembley. You can't be doing both at the same time. I mean, okay, some of her theorising there was possibly doing both in the same life, but you're one life now. You can't do both at the same time. You can't have both positions at the same time. You can't be both fast asleep and wide awake at the same time. You're one or the other.
You can if you follow the idea that we're living many lives at the same time.
Yeah, no, I just said that. But you can't be awake and asleep at the same time. You person, Steve, the individual Steve that's there now, can't be awake and asleep at the same time. You're going to be depths of winter and the height of summer outside your flat house at the same time.
Tell that to my body. I know I slept last night, but I'm still picking tired.
That's fine. These are dualities. This fundamental dualism she's talking about.
Okay.
Do you get it? She's talking about fundamental dualism.
Yes.
You've got two things in parallel, but at the same time, he's also having monoism. This idea of this oneness, of what she was talking about before. She mentioned the idea of it all being the one thing.
Yeah, but that would be the energy she was talking about.
Yes, exactly. Yes, exactly. You can't have both. That's the problem. She's got both. You can't have both positions at the same time.
Right, carry on. Two.
No, I'm just reading something that's come up on here.
What?
What?
He's reading something. What are you reading?
I'm confused.
What are you confused
Well,
about?
me and TTGH were talking about the Big Bang, and he said this is a big thing in America about Kirk Douglas. Some people say they can remember him dying.
He's not dead. He's alive. He's about 90 odd.
Yeah, but see, she's saying some people can remember him dying.
That's just misremembering something. Yes. Okay. That's the big problem. She's got a duality going. You've got two fundamentally opposing different positions at the same time, which is a bit of a problem for that kind of theorizing. And I say the other thing is she's some of the most basic concepts of quantum physics. She's either misunderstood or misrepresented because it fits more with her thinking or her theorizing, which you get sometimes.
James Lloyd said, "Yeah, but nobody knows anything. That's for sure." Which is what?
Yeah,
what I was saying.
And she's saying no different timelines.
Different timelines.
We have a degree of acceptability of certain areas of knowledge. Otherwise, we'd just be saying, well, the world's flat and round at the same time.
Nah.
You know, are you absolutely, do you feel personally there's nothing that we can be sure of? Absolutely nothing at all? I'm asking, that's a question.
It strikes me at some point there, she was talking about a multiverse.
A multiverse.
Which is saying we live in many lives all at the same time.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the whole idea of a multiverse.
It would be, but again, it's still the same problem of being a duality. A duality doesn't have to be two. A duality is a concept of more than one. Talking about the sort of philosophical terminology here. A duality is a reference to more than one. It could be billions. But it can't be the universal oneness that comes from quantum mechanics, which is using the back of our argument. Fundamental theory of quantum mechanics is that everything is energy. It's energy that we cannot state categorically is in a particular state at any one time. It's continually in flux. It's continually, the uncertainty principle is the heart of that. It's constantly changing from our perception of it. But it's still unified as one massive energy field, if you like. But at the same time, she's also talking about something that's fundamentally a duality. This concept of mind and brain not being in the same thing at the same time, or being bigger, or being separate, or then coming back into or reincarnate, etc., etc.
So what do you think is going to happen when you die, Andy?
Well, when this me, Andy, dies, it'll be a case of being cremated and turned to dust. But the Atman energy, spirit within, will continue. That's where I agree with her. Now, I think she's I mean, I don't go into horrible detail, but she's misplaced the levels, shall we say. That there is something beyond simple...
Is that in her book or in her conversation?
Well, it's just what she's talking about fits quite closely with the Vita Vedanta, which is a belief system, if you like, or whatever you want to call it. It's a philosophy of life that I personally very much adhere to. And quantum mechanics is the one that really is talking about essentially the same kind of thing. There is a oneness of everything. That the energy within me, the sort of driving energy force, if you like, is the thing that will continue. That's eternal.
I must admit, though, it's a lot to get into in 60 minutes when you're introducing the person at the same time.
I mean, Dave Lloyd is saying that the state only exists when the observer looks at it.
Exactly, but it doesn't. That's correct, but it doesn't fix the state simply by observing it. Now, one of the things she's quoting in the book suggests that she's saying exactly that. She's misquoting that very basic quantum uncertainty principle, and Dave's put it correctly there. It's in a state when the observer observes that state, but it doesn't fix it in that state. The state can remain on uncertainty. So yeah, Dave's got that right, and that's where she's gone wrong, because that's what she tried to state in her book. Because I've got a bit of it here.
So what you're saying is, when you look away, it changes. Yes. But when you look back,
you look away, but it doesn't. You don't influence its appearance. It's how you observe it. It's constantly changing. It only appears. It's like taking a photograph of a fast-moving car. If you look at that picture, it appears the car isn't moving because it's moving. If you use a camera with a very fast exposure, so the car would appear to be completely clear and stationary, wouldn't it, in that photograph?
Yeah.
But when you took it, it was moving. By you taking a photograph of that car, you've not made the car stationary, have you? You observe it to appear to be stationary.
Mm.
But what she's saying was that you make the car stationary in the way she's put it in her book. That's a fundamental flaw, fundamental error in her understanding, because your photograph doesn't freeze the car in that position. It photographs the car in that position, but it's your perception. You see the picture. It doesn't change the state of the car. The car's still moving at 50 miles an hour, and was the entire time. This is where she's gone wrong. The other thing I was saying to you is, and you've mentioned we talked this before, my personal idea, and I say it comes from Advaita Vedanta, which is a very ancient Hindu approach, is that there is this pure energy spirit within us. But that's the thing that reincarnates, is the energy. It's the level above consciousness. Now, she was talking about conscious self-awareness as being the thing that survives.
Mind.
No, she isn't. She's talking about conscious self-awareness.
Right.
You can say mind is consciousness. Now, pure consciousness is not not self-aware. It is consciousness. And beyond that is the pure self, the transcendental self, as Husserl, German philosopher, called it. It's the transcendental self. That's what reincarnates. It's the energy, if you like. It is the electricity that's in your computer. If you imagine your body is the computer, your conscious self-awareness is the computer program running. Consciousness is, in the case of a PC, is Windows. It's the fundamental program underneath. And then you have the electricity in the system. That's the Atman spirit. And I'll say to you, the Atman spirit is the one thing that does continue. So as soon as you turn your computer off, all the other things stop. The physical computer's still there. The program stops running, and Windows stops running. But the electricity is just not in. It's in the machine. It's still going through it. But it doesn't quick circuit. It's still present. That remains eternal.
But what about when you have to charge the computer up?
No, because the electricity is always there.
Okay.
The electricity is always there. Your computer's still plugged in. The electricity is still running through the system. It's just not completing the circuit in your computer. Oh. It goes in and out again without completing the circuit.
Don't laugh, Dave. You've unplugged it and the battery's run down.
Yeah, but we're not talking about a plugged in. We're talking about a computer that's still plugged in. You unplug it from the wall. Yeah, fair enough. It's like you're dead then.
Yeah.
You're dead.
Right.
It's like it's in sleep, don't it?
Yeah.
So that's going back to the Matrix again.
We're going back to the
unplugged. We don't
The electric that's running the computer is constantly there. It doesn't go away when you turn it off.
Right. Okay.
It's like all things, and you turn off a plug socket, the power's still there. It's just not going any further.
But the electricity is still present. It's still there.
So that's when people say that we are energy and you can't kill energy.
Yes.
We are energy, but that is all there is energy. This physical object stuff, this objectable physical reality.
So what you're saying is the energy will be there, but we won't be thinking to ourselves, oh look, there's my husband over there, I'm going to go over to him.
Exactly.
Right.
What's left behind is a ghost in the literal sense of an empty shell, if you like. Now, remember we talked before about my own theorising about the idea of how it works. It's basically I can come up with fire burning. There's a fire burning. Remember the conversation about fires burning? That living persons are burning fire?
Right.
But then the flame goes out, that spark goes out, but the embers still burn.
Yeah.
Still give the impression of being alive. And I think that's what ghosts are. But they fade in time. Now, one of the people said earlier on, and I quite agree, you're going to end, if everyone who's ever lived is still there, you know, your whole family for thousands of generations going back, they're going to all come and say hello. So, what?
Okay. So what about these families that do come back and say hello? You've said that there's a person in my house.
Yeah.
Right,
but
okay.
She's still an ember that's still burning. It's still a glowing ember.
But it's a ghost.
Yeah, it's a glowing ember.
But what about these ghosts that we can contact and speak to?
It's still a glowing ember of life. The spark of life no longer present, but it's still, you can still get warmed by the glowing embers of a fire, but the flame's not there, is it?
Fine.
It's not brilliant. It's not a perfect analogy by any stretch of the imagination, but it's the best one I can make sense of at the moment.
It's just a theory. ETGH.
Yes, yeah, but
Most things are still
I mean, these glowing embers would still have to have some form of consciousness to communicate.
Mm.
Yeah, but they still produce the heat. The flame's gone, but the heat is still present, isn't it?
Yeah.
These some of the glowing embers of a fire. There's no flame there.
So you're saying that when we die, your grandmother or whatever, your mum's not waiting for you to say, "I'm here, darling," or whatever.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry, I don't believe that. Because that would suggest the conscious self-awareness continues forever.
Right.
I find that difficult to accept because it doesn't.
So what about when you get these moaning ghosts that have been running around and looking like earthbound and
grounded spirits?
Grounded spirits and looking for their loved one or whatever.
Even the ashes still burn, aren't they? Ash is still there. They're the dead cold ash. If it's still there, still the dead cold ash of a fire, it's still there.
You do realise if I come into contact with a spirit called Ash, I'm going to piss myself laughing.
I'd say that it's not a brilliant analogy at all, but it's the best I can really come up with at the moment.
That's your personal opinion, Andy says.
Yeah.
No, really? Is it? I hadn't guessed that. Actually, it's not my personal opinion. I know a lot of other people say the same.
But I mean, at the end of the day, it's all about what gets you through.
Yeah.
Of course.
It's all about.
I mean, I'm still yet formularising, but you know me, I'd like taking other ideas apart and put them back together. If they can put back together and they still work, then brilliant. But they were just holes.
You might find sometimes you might have a couple of screws that you're sitting there thinking, where the bloody hell did they go?
Yes, exactly.
You know
I love a good theory, but I mean, I will have to come up with my own stuff. I know I'll have to because then I have to be shot the same as everybody else. But then I'm probably the most regular guest you've had. I've been on 6 times already.
Oh, what's that got to do with it?
My own theories fall apart and thrown out the window and trampled all over quite happily.
It's not my fault. You're a knowledge and font of. You're an oracle of information, and that we can come to you and say, help.
As he said, he's an oracle of weird information.
Yes, you know what I mean. So,
but all I'm saying is that I don't just sort of sit back and in the background and hide and just tear people's theories apart. I'll come on.
And we give you a voice for you to come on and say.
Well, we give everybody a voice if they want to come on.
Ego. You feed my ego. That's what you do. Thank you.
You know what I mean. Your ego. Anyway, you're in Glastonbury.
Yeah.
What are you going to do tomorrow?
Come back to Essex, unfortunately.
No. What are you doing for this solstice? What are you actually going to do?
This is the solstice.
Right.
Today. Sunday was the shortest day.
Yeah.
Well, why is it saying tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock?
I've no idea.
That's sunrise.
Wrong.
That was sunrise.
It's sunrise this morning.
They're on about sunrise.
Oh, they're on about this morning.
No, this morning was the shortest day. This is the shortest day.
Oh,
today.
Right. Oh, right, okay. So why didn't you mention it when I was reading it?
Because I'll leave it.
Yeah, Viscount said he's dancing around naked, hugging trees.
No, that's too frightening. Come on, hugging the trees.
So what did you do today then? Did you go there at 8 o'clock in the morning?
God, no.
What did you do?
Spent a fortune on books again.
Is that it? So you just happened to be there for it? Where you could have come to Manchester for it, apparently.
I got the book.
And got the book.
Yeah, well, yeah, no, I'll get that one. Don't worry.
But no, so that's all you did. You went down there for the weekend.
Yeah.
To say that you were there.
Well, as I was telling someone not long ago, coming for the winter solstice it is bloody freezing. But I used to come for the summer solstice.
You could have stayed at home and gone, I'm here.
Well, for many years I used to come to the Glastonbury for the summer solstice and spend the whole night up on the tour. Then I got to the point where I would stay in a tent at the base of the tour and go up for the morning sunrise. Then I got to the point where I stayed in a B&B but got up for the sunrise. Now I just stay in a B&B. I'm just in town. I just can't be bothered with all that stuff anymore. But now I've got lots of friends in Glastonbury. I end up sort of spending the afternoon chatting with a couple of people that I know well.
So what, are you a druid?
No. God, no.
Why do you celebrate the solstice?
I don't. What we think I celebrate it. I'm just here for it.
Oh, right.
I come here just before Christmas because Mandy goes to have her Christmas with her friends in the B&B that they run down the West Coast because obviously they can't do Christmas because they've got guests in. So they have the weekend before Christmas
so
to
basically,
themselves.
he likes to say, oh, we're there.
Yeah, I come here because there's the 2 best bookshops outside London are in Glastonbury and I know the owners of both of them.
Oh, right. Gives you an excuse to go book hunting.
Absolutely, and a fantastic shop called the Witchcraft Shop, is run by a genuine guy who's very much in the
Apparently,
witchcraft.
there's loads of second-hand books in Russell Wye.
Russell Wye.
Load of second-hand bookshops.
Ross on Wye? Do you mean Hay on Wye?
Hay on Wye, that's the one.
Hey, on Wye.
Yeah.
Actually, they're rubbish because they're pretty awful. They're like one of the.
And next week you may not be in the chat room.
But the two here, let me just finish the two here, they both specialise in esoteric subjects. So it's my cup of tea. Yeah, we're talking about Potty with a friend of mine a couple of years was going to Windlesham Forest next Sunday. Ooh, maybe. Or Saturday.
Ooh. Well, the anniversary is actually at midnight on the 26th.
Yeah, so that's like tomorrow. No, it's Friday, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, I think it might be going on Saturday. I'm going to have to double check with him if he's still even doing it, because
Which is actually, it actually went on for 3 days.
So are they saying
yeah.
Are they saying it happened at Christmas?
Yeah, well, it's the Christmas Boxing Day.
yes.
So
are
26th of December it happened.
So are we saying that this is possibly the star that the Three Kings followed?
No, because
That
it
kind
only
of thing.
happened in 1980.
I bet it didn't. I bet it didn't. I mean,
never know.
I mean, there is a theory that it was a UFO that the Three Kings followed.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
It is a bit of a mystery. There is actually a very real possibility that there were no bloody stars. It was all just a story.
Mm. Yeah.
Well,
So
like we say,
I've been to Hay on Wye several times, and someone's just Mike is just talking about it. But the trouble is, it's got it's become a very commercial town, the bookshops, and they are all just general books. There's not a very good one for kind of esoteric stuff that I like to collect. There's not many shops like that.
Unfortunately, Dave, Larry Warren is otherwise engaged. We did ask him, and Peter asked him as well. So, unfortunately, we can't get Larry on.
No, Larry is definitely not available.
But Peter will be speaking on his behalf. And I'm sure Peter will be mentioning what's been going on of late.
Hasn't Larry Warren become rather controversial in terms of...
And Peter is sticking up for him.
He is, because I know there's a few now suggesting he was never there in the first place.
Precisely. So
his story is substantially different to most of the other witnesses.
Yes. So we're going to be talking about what happened in Rendlesham, and I'm sure Peter will be sticking up for Larry.
And me and you have actually got to read up on it and find out what it's all about.
Yeah.
Because I'm ashamed to say, apart from the name and what's supposed to have happened, I haven't
There
got a
are
clue.
several good YouTube videos which are obviously taken from TV that people have put up on the Rendlesham Forest stuff. So, actually, a old friend of mine who I've not spoken to for a long time, actually, he's absolutely fascinated by it.
I found an old cachet that is no longer available, so I've nicked that to have a look at. So, yes.
Dave just said that he's met Larry a few times. He was the one that produced the Cole Holt tape.
Yes.
Started the whole thing off.
Yes, but it's whether he was...
I've not been reading up what's going on Facebook, to be honest with you.
I'm sure he was actually at the event. That's what's the question now.
Yeah.
Whether he was even there.
But we'll be talking about it. Steve Mayer will be here live in the hub. Talking to us two. I'll get it right in a minute. Two.
As well.
And
I dare say Jackie will be here.
And Jackie.
Well, I'll tell you what, if it does come off and go on Sunday, and I can't say for definite it's going to happen or not, but if it does, I'll try and ring in from the forest itself.
That'd be good. If not, you'll have to come back and tell us what happened.
Yeah, absolutely.
So do it that way. But yes.
But don't hold your breath, but we actually going. I wouldn't be talking to it doesn't happen at all, unfortunately.
And as I say,
try and ring in.
The first Sunday of January, we have
Mr. Eric von Daniken.
Yay!
Coming on to talk to us?
Yes. Now that's something I never thought I'd get.
It really is a hell of a
That'd be something else we need to look into.
Brush up on.
Like, you must know this Von Daniken stuff, surely.
Oh yes, we'll find plenty of that.
He was the originator of the Ancient Aliens concept.
So, but yes.
Most of his stuff has been
the controversial Swiss author.
I do think he has a point, though.
Not dead, Dave. Charming, isn't it? Dave says he's dead. I thought he was dead.
He thought he was dead.
That'll be another show.
Well, like 20 grand a lecture.
If he comes on, then we find he died before it.
Yeah, that would be a good show. It would be a good show. For over 45 years, Eric von Daniken has pursued the theory which postulates that Earth might have been visited by extraterrestrials in the remote past.
Yeah, so the origin, the ancient aliens concept.
Mm-hmm,
I think he has a point.
Some legs to it, I must admit. I mean, a lot of the stuff that von Daniken has brought up has been debunked as being just misunderstanding and misrepresenting conventional evidence, but I do think there's something to these ideas. I mean, I've watched that Ancient Aliens TV series when it first started. It's about 6 seasons now. And again, a lot of you think, well, it's just like a bunkum. But there's got to be something there. There's so much of it. Yeah. Even if 1% of what they've said on that program is correct, that's still a lot. So.
Yeah, I find it interesting that a lot of what was supposed to be happening in and around Egypt at the same time was happening in the Americas.
Mm. There is the pyramid design, this reaching for the stars design that two cultures seem to have generated, or several cultures in different parts of the world have generated at different times without any contact with each other. But then you can look at another concept called the collective unconscious, which I think is a reality, which kind of says that sort of design is an inevitable part of our consciousness, the way we think. That we create these concepts and ideas, this archetypal concept of gods in the sky, something that is almost ingrained in the way in which our minds develop our understanding of the world around us. The fact that we see so much power in the sky, we see the day and the sun, the night and the moon, you got thunder and lightning all coming down from the sky. So the idea of there are sky gods up there making these things happen, is an inevitable part of the thinking process. So that's why you have different cultures having the same idea about reaching for the stars, because it's natural to assume that things are coming from the stars, because that's what you see.
So you'll be joining us for that one then?
Oh, absolutely. I'll tell you when you want to.
You'll be joining us for
Yeah,
that one?
I mean, David Lloyd said, how come we only lived to 70 odd yet in the biblical times? We lived to 800 and more.
Because it's stories, Dave. It's just myths. They're legends. They're not real.
I think they had dog days and stuff like that.
Exactly. Yeah, their years are like 2 weeks long.
Yeah. So that's what I think.
Don't take any of the Bible literally. It's like taking the Norse Viking sagas literally.
I was actually told by a vicar not to believe the Bible.
Oh no, I mean it's
he told you to believe
some fable.
He told you to believe
you might as well believe Harry Potter. You know, it's about as real.
I mean, there was and there is such people as what we could call long livers.
Long livers.
People who live long lives.
Oh, long lives.
Long livers.
Or long livers with long nibblers. Nibbler.
No, I mean, I think the oldest person died recently, 115.
Yeah, I mean, I know, I forget the biological details, but because of the way our bodies work, the longest you could realistically live for is about 125 before it just starts to break down. It'll inevitably will break down. The coding is actually talking about, it's correct there in the sense that it's to do with the DNA sequences starts to break down. It can't replicate. It can only replicate so many times before there's too many errors start creeping in, and that's where the body starts to break down and things start to stop working. About 120, 130 years is all that's possible. Now, it has been suggested that there's a very slight fault in the DNA that if you can fix that, we can live on far, far longer. But the scientist who first proposed it, and I forget his name, he is a Scientologist, and Scientology tends to want to believe that sort of thing. So that's the problem.
Well, thank you, Andy, for your input.
Oh, thank you. That's right. All right. You get rid of me now, are you?
Yeah.
All right.
Really get rid of you.
Yeah, well, of course, tell me, well, thank you for your input, and it means go away, hang up.
No.
That's quite all right. All right, guys. I'll see you again.
It's nice to have your input.
But just want to clarify just quickly, that's my two problems with her, was she was trying to propose two different fundamental positions at the same time and showed a certain misunderstanding of the nature of quantum mechanics. Okay?
Okie dokie. Read our second book.
I'm going to, and it seems as mad as the first one. But yeah, okay, right. So bye-bye.
See you later. Bye. Have a nice Christmas.
You too.
Bye. So that was our Andy. giving us his two penneth.
Yep, so it's going to be good, really. We're finishing on the year one Rendlesham.
And sign it on Ancient Gods.
Yeah.
So,
Dave Lloyd just said, Andy won. Win after what nil? Her name's Roberta.
the Roberta. Yes. Oh, my nose. I'm going to have to blow it soon.
Don't be giving him compliments, Vizzy.
Hey.
He's just said it's always lovely to hear from Andy. Andy's input. He has a good acumen on the subject.
Mm.
He'll be giving Andy a big head.
Will be. So, apparently he's missed him.
Who's missed him?
Hey.
Who's missed him?
Andy. His wife can't miss Andy and vice versa.
Oh, that's cool.
So, that's the way it's been, I think.
Yeah, TTGH here, in one simple statement, has said it all, really. History is written by winners.
Yeah.
So,
I can believe that.
So we're only ever hearing one side of the story.
Yeah. Too bloody right. So.
Yeah, because I mean, the Allies won the war.
Yeah.
Yeah, and everything Germany did is painted as being evil and bad and wrong. Yeah. Now, if Germany had won the war, it would have been exactly the opposite way around as far as history is concerned, wouldn't it? So, and it's the way things are.
Aye.
And it doesn't matter whether it's about money or anything else, religion, whatever happens, it's always the winning side, so to speak, that writes history. So we lose a lot of history because of that.
Yep. Definitely. That's one way of putting it. It's a good way to end. Thank you for that. That's a good way to end.
Farewell. Good night.
Look at the Romans and the Normans. Oh God, that's another subject.
Oh. Do we have to?
Oh dear.
That's a lot of stuff and nonsense.
Who was it, the historian used to moan about Romans and Normans?
Oh,
saying that it was wrong on the
CJ.
CJ, yeah.
CJ, when they put it when they put it on TV, was it
like the Tudors,
and the Tudors and everything else, he was ripping the hell out of it, and he told them so.
Yes, he told them so. But anyway, we're going to finish off now. Don't forget, this is your show too, so email us if you've got any ideas for a show. Join us next week for the Rendlesham Forest Incident anniversary, 34 years, with Peter Robbins and Steve Mera. We're always open to any specific genre of this, any specific area of this genre, including ghost monsters, psychic phenomena, or any other supernatural or unexplained mysteries. Okay, so we want you to get involved as well. So thank you for your questions tonight.
And if you've got a specific subject, let us know, and we'll do our best to find somebody to talk about it.
We hope you've enjoyed tonight's show, and maybe it's given you food for thought.
Yes.
And we look forward to having your company again next Sunday at 8 p.m. on www.k2pf.co.uk. Thank you for listening to the KTPF Community Talk Show, recommended by Phenomena Magazine, the UK's leading online publication, and sponsored by
Craigenhouse Castle, South Wales, one of the most haunted castles in Wales. For more information on ghostly and ghastly events, including fright nights, all-night investigations and hen parties, visit www.mosthauntedcastle.com.
So until next time, have a very Merry Christmas.
Yes.
Okay.
Don't get too drunk and enjoy yourselves.
Yes, and remember, if you've got any candles lying about,
blow them out.
Yes, blow them out
before you go to bed.
But there was a young girl in the news today. She was obviously playing around and what have you, and swirling around near a candle, and unfortunately it caught her dress, and she ended up going to hospital. So please be careful, guys.
Not only that, So someone recently died from the same thing because they left the candle burning, didn't they?
Yes. So as I say, please have a very Merry Christmas. Enjoy yourself. We'll see you here next Sunday on the 28th, hopefully. Come on, have a drink with us and enjoy the show. Until next time, remember to keep the paranormal friendly. Good night and God bless.
Night, everyone.
Where it's at. This is where it's at.
That's better.
To see in the night, to measure the spike, to see how cold it's been.
This is where it's at.
To see in the night, to measure the spike, to see how cold it's been. I buy my kit so I won't forget the ghosties that I have seen. The Paranormal Intelligence Gathering Services Ghost Store. So visit www.the-pigs.co.uk/ghost store.